Hello and welcome to the Resistance Podcast. I'm joined here by Raw Milk Conspiracy. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Did you attend a protest on the 24th of April?
My name's Alexander Pete and I say some words.
Has to be musical.
My name's Orlando. I play guitar and keyboards and I sing a little bit in the background.
You don't have to say anything, but we'll pin it on you in court. You don't have to say anything. The jury's stacked, the judge fought.
I'm Adam. I play the bass at the moment.
Could it have been a blue anorak, for example? Did you see any violence take place? Are these your batteries in a sock? What do you feel about all the day's events? Thank you very much.
So tell me, how did you guys come to meet? I hear it's a strange story.
Shall I take this one?
Yeah, good.
Well, it was, I met Adam in February 2021.
Valentine's Day.
And it was quite a scary day because I wasn't supposed to be out of the house because the government told me I wasn't supposed to leave the house, but I did.
Oh, very
And,
naughty.
Don't tell anyone about that. No. Anyway, there was a group of people who were meeting in Greenwich Market against the lockdown orders. And so I went along and I saw this lady with a I'm exempt from wearing a mask badge. I thought, oh, those are my people. And that's where I met Adam. And we started chatting of all the stuff and started going to protest together. And then I remember he sort of started coming around. We started jamming stuff together. So that's where I met Adam. And then Alex I was actually in a courtroom. Well, in a court because he'd been up to no good. Alex, what was going on in the court?
They arrested me for violent disorder, and I was a case with Adam for the same offence. And we became, we got to know each other a little bit during the trial, me and Adam, and realised we had a similar interest, similar sense of humour, similar focus on things, and the band took hold from there, really.
Yeah, we started. I think we were in the corridor outside the courtroom, and Adam, you said Orlando's been talking about doing some music.
And so you were both getting stitched up for the Battle of Hyde Park.
Both getting royally stitched at...
Do you want to tell us what happened on that day? Because I've interviewed you before, Pete, about you being attacked by the police. I believe that was regarding this.
When I was attacked, that was arrested for hurting someone from the BBC's feelings.
Oh, yes.
That was the attack for that. But
well, do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Pete?
And then,
how you were, put severe fear into the heart of a BBC traitor?
Well, I was in another group case. They grouped together to make you look like a mob, a baying mob, or whatever it is. And that was just like this one. They so they can say a group of thugs, a group of hooligans, spin it on its head, turn it on its head, and I mean that one's been covered. But I called them a traitor and I said, stop promoting your lies. And I was at a different address from which they had, the address they had for me officially. So they just came down on me like a ton of bricks, but it's something you're very familiar with. And you covered very well that, I forget his name, but the guy who was viciously attacked by the police for just not going home, the guy who was...
It was recently, wasn't it?
Yeah, that guy's case. I wish I'd been there, actually, but I'm going off a bit of a tangent, but it's... they've...
You're talking about Charlie Staple? The one that I recently put out?
Yeah, that's... So which is... What I'm trying to say is particularly for people in on our protests, it was a very familiar scene. So a very familiar thing to be so maltreated by the police. But I called him a traitor, and I said, "Stop promoting your lies." Another guy was banging a baking tray with a spoon. Another guy said, "Oh." He was just there. Or not even that, he was just in the general area.
Did he get convicted of saying, "Oh"?
That was Gary, yeah. Gary was just there. He was just, I think he said, "Oh." And so it was just, and again, the case I was in with Adam was they attacked us yet again viciously, and they just turned it on its head, and we became the people who had to answer for our crimes, and the perpetrators were seen to be the innocent party, or the broken party.
The amazing thing about the BBC one, which I remember following obviously quite closely, is I think it was the Prime Minister and people on the BBC, all these big hitters were saying, "Oh, I can't believe journalists are being attacked," and they played it as if this is we're some sort of violent mob. But these are the most powerful people in the country. They have their platform. People hear everything they have to say. These are the people in Downing Street, and we're just some ordinary people who have been censored, maligned. Like Alex said, people have been beaten up. People have lost jobs for attending a peaceful protest. So it's the height of hypocrisy and just low level, disingenuous, just dishonorable to try and say that they are victims.
Yeah.
You know, the most powerful people in the country. How can you be a victim if an ordinary person just challenges you? And of course, they didn't invite, it's not like we ever then get invited to an honest interview to answer where we get to make our case. That never happens. They sling mud. Well, yeah, you're inviting us.
Well,
but
they talk about journalists being under attack. The amount of times I've been attacked.
Well, exactly.
And other people that I know have been attacked, and they couldn't care less.
But this is the hypocrisy.
I've never been attacked during one of the freedom protests. I once had a couple of guys who were believing all of the conspiracy junkie stuff. Oh, he's wearing black and blue, so therefore he's police or something like that. That sort of nonsense. No. And they actually got chased off by people. They went, "Oi, you leave him alone. Get the hell out of here. He's the only one who tells the truth. Get out." Right? And they literally chased these guys out of the protest. And I just thought, yeah, that's a pretty good system. Like, we got 10,000 people and you got 2 tossers or 3 tossers there. It happens. But yeah, it's completely safe for an actual journalist. But do you think the BBC are journalists?
No. They are told everything that goes out in that corporation is placed there by someone higher up, by people within the government or behind the government, whoever's pulling the levers. And so the claim even that these are people trying to do their job, trying to investigate, is just a nonsense. What they're primarily there for now is to censor opposing voices on any given issue that has been decided isn't up for debate.
And this informs this informs your first single on your EP.
Yes, Misinformation Whore.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the community use those platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Misinformation whore.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Misinformation whore.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Misinformation whore. Evil to the core. We're stuck in 1984. Ghastly corporate bore.
extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Misinformation Hall.
Which I think originally I've seen some comments people asking about who exactly it is about. I mean, should we tell them out? No. Well, anyway, we're taking aim at the general. Well, the opening sample is Ursula von der Leyen, and introducing, I think it's Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. And I guess she could be one of the queens of misinformation.
Well, all I can say is that something certainly springs to mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't think we should say who it's about.
Right.
We shouldn't name names, but I mean, it wouldn't take much to guess because there's a particular individual at the BBC who decided that she was going to be sort of marshalling our protests and deciding how to present them to the public. So yeah, it's dedicated to her, but we'll keep her name out of it.
Right.
So, talk me through what other tracks you've got, because this is all based around your sort of personal experiences dealing with the misinformation of the BBC, the mainstream media. What's the next track that comes up?
I believe it's Homicidal Maniac is the next track.
And so, what is this referencing? Could you explain, Pete?
Mr. Pete.
So it's sort of British humour, isn't it, about an event.
Another peaceful protest, criminally invaded. To retaliate, we didn't need to be persuaded. A lovely afternoon ended too soon, wrecked by those supposed to serve, protect. It's not all white and black. We all crack, particularly when under attack. I'm a homicidal maniac. I'm a homicidal maniac. Babe, don't hold me back. I'm a homicidal maniac.
A bit tongue-in-cheek, a bit dry, very dry. But it's about the 24th of April, and the day I wasn't arrested on the day, but I was arrested afterwards. But it was about the fateful day, the crime of homicide, where I threw in the general direction of the police as a sort of, it was my prop actually. That was my prop because that was my industry as well. Because all these restaurants were closing, I was a kitchen porter, so that was my prop. That was the hummus. And that was my prop, and it was a bugger off throw. That I all those years I was playing or trying to play cricket, embarrassing my father. Somehow that one flew. So that was the only time.
Levels within levels. I didn't realise there was a symbolism to it.
But that was I thought that was that was something to throw, because my industry was being, catering hospitality, like particularly was being just not decimated, but just almost wiped out. Yeah, and so I thought that was. But it was, I was, like I say, it was a bugger off thing. I was just going bugger off, and then it flew. It did fly. So that song's about that incident of a peaceful protest criminally invaded, and then our response after 6 months of being attacked, broken up, kettled, everything. So it's our response of being being broken in so many ways, and a reaction to that.
And we haven't been able to get justice for the crimes that have been committed against us, have we?
No. The interesting thing was that we'd been marching. I think that was my second time going out, and we'd been marching peacefully all day. It'd been a great day, even on some of the footage before it happens. If you look at any of the liaison officers, even beneath their mask, you can see they're smiling, because it was actually a really pleasant experience for everyone. And within 30 seconds or a minute, it became a full-on riot. And that was, I believe, in the trial, one of the lawyers said that the prosecution accepts it was peaceful until the police went in. So immediately, I mean, I didn't get involved in ruckus, but I did go around to some of the other police around the side, and I said, who gave the order? What's going on? And they were just as shocked as me. The liaison officers couldn't believe it. And then they were pulled out, which was interesting. So the ones who were there to actually engage with us were removed. And later, when I got round to speaking to a constable who'd just appeared on scene, not one of the TSG, but some other guys. And I said, listen, there's been injury to the public and to the police by whoever gave this order. I want to know what's going on. And they looked me in the eyes and said, listen, mate, we're just like you. We don't know what goes on up there. And I actually called some number someone gave me to try and find out, to complain officially and find out. And of course, you never get there. You never get to peek behind the curtain. Not really. I don't know, Adam, if you want to talk about that at all.
Well, some of the crucial people in court weren't even there, were they? So
Adam,
the crucial people to ask in court.
You were put up as the poster boy of evil.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you were disarming an armed and violent assailant, part of a violent mob, and you protected people.
Yeah, I mean, initially I stepped in line, and sort of linked hands with people, linked arms, because I saw what the police were going to do. I thought they're gonna try and beat these kids up. Some of them were like 16 years old. Guy on the guitar, I think. And that's all I did initially. I just stood there, and I think I knocked one of their hats off, just as a kind of mark of disrespect. But after that, I walked away. I walked away. I was like, I'm getting out of here. I turned back, and I couldn't believe how quickly it escalated. And I just saw these like battens in the air. I was like, oh, I can't believe they've drawn battens on that crowd.
Which was unarmed.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe they'd done it. So that's why I went back in, because I was like, I'm not having that. I'm not just going to stand there and watch while they like beat that. Some of them were like kids. I mean, like I said, the guy on the guitar was about 16 if you look in the video.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went back in, and the first person I saw with a baton, I just thought, right, I'm taking it. And that's what I just grabbed for it. And I didn't know it was a woman at that time. And I didn't know that there was I didn't know there was photographers in the crowd that were going to snap me. I didn't know that until the next day. And they the way they framed it, they made it look as if I'd punched her, because they got the shot where my arm was up like this. And then what happened subsequently is someone threw a bottle from a distance, and it hit her on the forehead and it cut her. But they'd made it look like I punched her, and people were saying on Twitter, this guy's a thug, and even the police had written an article for like Emergency Services News, and they'd said, man appears to punch female police officer. Yeah, and that went on the front cover of the Metro, and that went, it was one of the largest circulation papers in the country. It went all around my office where I used to work.
I think it was on the Standard too, wasn't it? Was it on the Standard?
No, I don't think it was on the Standard.
I was on the Metro.
Yeah, it caused me a lot of damage. People called me up the next day saying, "What the hell's going on?" It was a real smear.
And this is because you actually stepped in to defend people.
Yeah, I'd been going to these protests since September. The first time I went to a protest in September 2020, I wasn't even against the vaccine. I was just against the lockdowns. I thought a lot of the anti-vaxxers, I thought they were crazy at the time. I did. I thought they were crazy until I started reading into what they were actually saying. I thought these people have a point. You hear things at school, and you just take it for granted. You hear it in science, you think, milkmaids, TB, all sounds good. And then one day, when you got the time, you think, hang on a minute, does this actually make any sense what they're telling me? But yeah, I thought they were crazy, but they were the only people that were resisting the restrictions. So yeah, I marched with them, and then I grew to love them because they were nice people. And I just saw that what the police were doing to them. Every time they were snatching women out of crowds. Well, Willsy, you were there.
Oh, there was this one time. Do you remember? Were you down at Bishop's Park where there was this girl?
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah,
tortured her. They tortured her. They were twisting the cuffs, and she was just screaming and screaming.
Yeah, that was
screaming.
Yeah.
Bishop's Park.
That was horrific. Well, that's near where I live. That was for some reason I missed that one. I was that was horrific. That stayed with me for a long time. I wasn't even there, but I just saw the footage.
And that's the one where they also sent the police to go in and take Heiko's NUJ card off of him, right? Because the NUJ kicked out Heiko because he was opposed to everything.
Really?
And then they collaborated with the police in order to go and steal his his card. And it's like, well, that's his card. He's paid for it. You have to have some sort of disciplinary for him.
So hang on, do you think they were doing that because their opinion is that you have to be an official journalist, and so they were trying to de-officialize him? There's
no such thing in this country as an official journalist.
I know.
It doesn't exist.
But is that why they were doing it?
That's the whole point of a free press is anyone in this country at any point can turn around and say, I'm going to go and I'm going to report an event. And you can report on one event in your entire lifetime. And for that one event, you're a journalist. When you're going and you're publishing that, that's journalism.
Yeah.
And you have the right to do that because that's the point of a free press.
Yeah.
The minute you start putting in these barriers to entry, then that's open to government abuse. That's open to manipulation.
Yeah.
And what they've been doing is they've been going around and enforcing this private scheme, which is called the UK PCA, which is a completely private scheme. And that was put in place essentially to sort of weed out IRA people around politicians, which I don't need that to walk down the street, do I?
Yeah.
I don't look like I'm a member of ISIS.
Yeah.
It's stupid, and more, it's a private scheme. So the idea is they're going to go around and they'll beat you up if you're not in their private club, but you have no legal standing to argue you have a right to join that club because it's private.
Yeah.
So they're going round.
That
is the definition of a cartel. It's a cartel. It's a mafia. And the people who give out permits, there's a certain number of them. I don't know whether it's 7 or 10 or something like that. They literally call themselves gatekeepers.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. They are called UK PCA gatekeepers. And UK PCA, it's just a private company. That's all it is. It's like, I could set up GB PCA.
Yeah.
And then I can say, I am the sole gatekeeper of the GB PCA.
It's all psychological, isn't it? This is the thing about these events you're talking about. Because the public haven't seen it, it didn't happen. But it did. I remember on Freedom Day, July 2021, again, I joined quite late, but we were holding Parliament Square, no problems. And then right at the end, when the police thought, okay, we can go in now, I saw them, same thing. There was like a woman, they just piled on top of her, pushed her down. I think she fell unconscious. But none of these events took place because we didn't see them. And this is how they control the public. I don't know if you've done this, Willsy, but I've spoken to people. I've said, I've got a friend, he's a journalist, the police beat him up. I don't know if people even really believe me because it wasn't on the BBC. So, and this is what's so difficult to break in people's minds is unless they've seen it on something that they believe to be a reputable source, these things just didn't happen. They're all just conspiracy theories. And, this is Orwell's vision come to life, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what they say, it's easier to fool a man than to convince him that he's been fooled. I mean, some of this speaks to what's going on in the state schools. And it's truly terrible people.
I've been told
who are
by
involved in the state schools, wouldn't you say?
I've been told by Adam, I'm don't get Orlando onto the education system. I am a teacher for my sins. Sorry, everyone.
You're not just a teacher, right? You've taken the King's shilling, haven't you?
What do you mean?
The King's shilling.
What? Because I pay tax?
No, because you have joined. No, you're a tax parasite.
What are we talking about?
Net, you are a tax parasite because you are getting paid by the state, by the man.
Yes, no, I am.
How is it in the state schools?
I'm going to be brief because I know we don't have a lot of time. The thing about a lot of the issues people have at the moment with, for instance, sexualizing children, which is going on for sure, and some of the more bizarre propaganda things that go on in schools, it is a kind of a Wild West because a lot of these things are not dictated by central government. So take sex education, that there is no curriculum by central government. So it's local authorities who are deciding this. But you've got the WHO, the World Health Organization, and certain other voices promoting this notion that, oh, you know, children are sexual beings. We've got to put this in the sex educational system. So in a sense, it's difficult to pin the blame on someone in particular. And actually, theoretically, local people, parents, teachers, head teachers, do have a lot of say to influence things in your local authority or whatever. But there's this, because teachers in general have been for decades, are, you know, so-called left-leaning, and the unions, the main teaching union, are absolutely promoting all of this agenda. They promoted vaccinating everyone. They wanted more lockdowns. They wanted more masks in classrooms. They want, the new head of the NEU wants drag queens to come into primary schools to read to children. I don't know if you knew that. So
I remember all of the staff board saying, "Oh, join up with the local new trade union.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great."
And the other thing that I don't think people realise is, at least in the National Education Union, which is the biggest one, is not democratic at all. I was a rep in that union, and I challenged them a few times. I became a rep in November 2020, and I went on a call and I said, I've asked everyone in my school, and no one feels they've been consulted on your policy positions about wanting to. In November, they wanted to lock the schools down again. I don't know if you remember. The second so-called lockdown, they didn't lock down the schools. The government didn't lock down the schools, but everything else was locked down. And the union said, well, we should lock down the schools. And I said, well, no one's been asked. So you just pushed this out and said, support our position. And the second thing is, I actually asked if people agree with it, and all but 2 members said, no, they don't agree. And those 2 members weren't even sure if they did agree. See, this is manufacturing consent, basically, within the union. And they did that with everything. And the last time I think in December, because I work in a particularly woke borough, Islington and Greenwich tried to lock down in December a couple of days before the end of term, which was just horrible, because all of the fun stuff at the end of term was all the teachers were running around like, oh my God, we're not going to come back to school tomorrow and I haven't done this. And I was putting on a Christmas show. And anyway, and so I challenged and I said, you haven't asked anyone. And also there's a bunch of scientists who don't agree with any of this. Anyway, they didn't want to hear what I'd say. The last time I tried to speak to them, it was about supporting the care workers. I said we should stand in solidarity with the care workers for losing all their jobs, for not getting jabbed. And at that point, they didn't let me speak anymore. You have to be nominated. Someone has to second your motion to speak. So then I just left.
So they silenced you.
Yeah. And I mean, this was Jeremy Corbyn's constituency, so I don't know how much of a chance I had. Yeah, that's it. If you want to know the state of education, but the thing is, there are still good people in schools, but it's people have to find their voice, and people have to speak up. There's parents. I know people. It's just people are scared. You know.
Is it just cowardice? Are most people cowards?
Oh no, I think people get drowned out, don't they? That's the problem. It's a numbers thing. So I mean, I remember talking to Orlando about his school when they're saying about there were pupils coming up to you when they were at the age of 9, 10, saying they agreed with you, or they would explain to their parents why you weren't participating in all this nonsense, or stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I had a couple.
But then
I also had some children, which I'm not gonna pretend didn't impact me. I had a few children accusing me of being an anti-vaxxer, and it was quite a thing to suddenly have these 11-year-olds. I felt like I was in the Great Leap Forward or the Cultural Revolution. Suddenly the children were taking control. Are you an anti-vaxxer?
You see it in George Orwell, don't you?
Yeah.
And the child heroes of the Soviet Union?
Yeah. All of that.
They'd snitch on their parents and snitch on your teachers.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about.
Because they commit wrongthink.
Yeah.
I had a story, sorry to cut across you, but before I forget, it's a quick one. Just I used to work under this, I used to work for this Polish head chef, and this is in Poland, but her, in the lockdowns, they were sending out, all in Poland, all the schools were shut. So her niece was in primary school, about 9, I think. And they were sending packs to every student. So, for remote learning. And they refused to send her a pack until she had the jab, and so it was. This might have been the second lockdown. I can't quite remember, so her education was on hold indefinitely until they said, unless you get this, you're not getting any of these packs. So, I mean, her father was adamant that she wasn't going to get this thing, and eventually he ended up, for her future, essentially, for her education, he ended up taking her to one of these centers, getting her jab, because he was so, so that was a very, very shocking thing to happen.
So at least that's pushing more kids towards homeschooling then. But anyway, I want you guys to talk me through a couple of the other tracks on your EP. So we've got Misinformation Whore, we've got Homicidal Maniac. What are the other two tracks?
No comment.
Speaks for itself.
Could you tell me what the name of the track is?
Well, I've just explained it.
What was the name of the track, Pete?
It's called No Comment, but after the first time I was arrested, so I was desperately wanting to speak, actually, put my point across, and I was given, one of these duty solicitors who was on the side of but I thought I should take the advice of my my lawyer, and so I was torn between. Anyway, so I ended up saying no comment, and they stitched me in court for saying no comment. So, but you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because the thing about it is, when you start speaking, they'll open it up and twist it round. They'll keep talking to you until you stumble a little bit or hesitate or something like that, and they'll use that against you. And if you say no comment, they'll use that against you as well, because they'll say, "Why did you say no comment? Why didn't you put your?"
Well, this is
that's the thing. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
You have the right to remain silent, and now what they're doing is they're saying,
but
they can infer guilt from silence, which is completely unconstitutional.
Well,
like the proof, you are innocent until proven guilty. The burden of proof must be on the accuser, not on the accused to prove themselves innocent.
Yeah.
I mean, can you prove yourself innocent of murdering someone?
Yeah,
the other week?
That's the thing, isn't it?
There are whole points in time when you weren't on a CCTV camera, you weren't here, you weren't there. You should never have to prove yourself innocent.
Yeah.
They have to prove you guilty. I just think it's absolutely disgusting that they're now moving to this stage where they say, well, because you decided that you were going to be cautious and wait for an actual trial and to actually hear what they were going to throw against you, because you decided not to talk to them, as is your right, screw you. We're going to hold that against you. We're going to tell the jury to be biased against you. I find it personally quite disgusting. So coming on, your last song is...
Well, it was.
It's been changed, but it's now hate is not a crime.
How can you criminalize the human emotion? How? Why can't I dislike people who only want to do me harm? People who don't have any good characteristics. I don't like you. I don't like you. And I really dislike you. And I said, hey, is that a crime? It's an emotion. We all feel it some of the time. Hey, is that a crime? It's an emotion. We all feel it some of the time. Love me, hate me, love me, hate me. Love me, love me, love me. Love me, hate me, love me, hate me. Love me, love me, love me.
And what is that inspired by?
Just because we hate everyone, isn't it? No, it's not that. Well, Adam, do you want to talk about it?
It's hate crime, isn't it? I mean, it's you hear all the time this they say hate crime, and then you think, hang on a minute, hate is not a crime. I mean, it's not. You might not like it when someone's hateful, but it's not a crime. I mean, a crime is when you've stolen something, you've caused harm or loss or distress. If I hate Alex, I shouldn't have to go to jail for that.
Which you do.
Crime? No. But the funny thing about this
crime,
is this should be understood by anyone. The reason hate can't be a crime is because that means you're policing thoughts. So it's not actually hate crime, it's a thought crime. That's what hate crime really is about. Because if you act on something, if you are violent towards someone or abusive, well, that is already a crime. That is a crime.
I remember when, I think it might have been the George Floyd thing. And I remember someone saying, not only was this a murder, it was a hate crime. Yeah. And I was thinking, hang on a minute. I mean, surely murder has to come like way up on the hierarchy
rather
of crimes.
than emotion.
As if the murder was like secondary. It's like, oh yeah. But the main thing is, it was a hate crime.
Well, what is it going to be next? Is it like the thin end of the wedge, and there'll be a sort of mild irritation crime, and then there'll be ever so slightly peeved crime?
Yeah.
And then there's
that will be worse than first degree murder. Right, so, Mr. Pete, convicted of ever so slightly peeved.
Yeah,
but Your Honour, I'm fine now.
No, that's the way it's going. That's. I mean,
didn't the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, didn't they outlaw emotion? I think. Do you know about this? Well,
I don't know about that.
That's a research area.
What I do know is that is the plot of the movie Equilibrium, which is a great movie.
Yes,
and it has gun fu in it. So you guys have gone from being a music teacher, an engineer, and a pot washer to now essentially the new iteration of punk. Would you consider yourselves to be punk?
Are we punks? I mean, I did do a speech in Camden just a while back on a protest. I just thought it was so ridiculous. You go to Camden, the so-called home of punk, and it's all pro-establishment in every single area, but people are still wearing the haircuts. If punk is being anti-establishment, then I suppose, well, I'll let our audience decide.
And you are going to be headlining for the Blockheads on is it the 3rd of August?
Yeah.
Supporting.
Headlining. Did you say headlining?
Opening for the Blockheads.
Can I just clarify? We don't consider ourselves superior band to the Blockheads.
You've gone from being supposed criminals and a collaborator to now headlining for the Blockheads.
Oh, that was a nice slip of the tongue.
We're bouncing back.
You're leading some of the musical resistance, and you have set up a record label with an excellent name, can I say?
Oh well.
So do you want to talk a little bit about how it feels to be working with the Blockheads and about your record label?
We got a new record label called Defiance Records. At the moment, Raw Milk Conspiracy, the band on the label, but
wasn't it originally called Hackable Animal? Wasn't it?
There were a few names, but it is now Defiance Records, and the website is defiancerecordings.com. And so Raw Milk Conspiracy, the first band on there, and we're hoping that as time goes on, we can capture more talent within the freedom movement, people who have something to say. The irony today is that there are a million record labels, but probably all of them don't want to touch people who have anything to say. It's bizarre, really. So that's Defiance Records. We're doing our EP release with Defiance. We're doing a launch night on the 27th of May, which is Monday this month. It's very soon. And at that event, we're also uniting it with Nacho from Stand Up X to talk about. There's a convoy of people who are going to go to Geneva to protest with the WHO. We can come on to that, I suppose, in a moment. So that's our next big event coming up. And after that, we do a residency at the moment at the Night Owl, which is where our EP release is going to be, which is in Finsbury Park. It's opposite Finsbury Park Station. So we do that every month at the moment, and then
last Thursday.
Yeah, last Thursday of every month, and then we're playing Sounds Beautiful Festival. I think we're on the 28th of June, which is a Friday. So we're going to be doing a Defiance Records night at that venue at Night Owl, and then the next day we'll be going down Sounds Beautiful, which is in Dorset, I think. Yes.
And you're also going to be down at Hope Festival as well.
Yeah, Hope, Sussex. That's later in August. I think that's after the Blockheads one. So we've got Sounds Beautiful coming up, and at the Sounds Beautiful one, we're going to have an extended set. Our set's been quite short, but it's going to be quite exciting because we've got a lot more material than is on the CP. So hopefully people will like that. Then we're doing the Blockheads on the 3rd of August, which is going to be quite something. And then the Hope Sussex is the last one we have at the moment.
Where's the Blockheads gig on the 3rd?
Is it Shepherd's Bush? Is it Bush Hall? Shepherd's Bush, yeah.
Shepherd's Bush. Yeah.
Bush Hall.
Bush Hall.
Yeah. So that's our our schedule at the moment. And behind the scenes, we're doing lots of intensive work towards all that.
So you said you were going to be doing your EP launch, and this is tied in with the WHO pandemic treaty. Do you want to talk a little bit about this treaty and what it's going to do? Just wrapping up.
Well, it's quite a complicated area. Basically, the main point is that the WHO in the lockdowns and all the measures that were taken, which I think anyone who's paying attention has seen, were all mistaken. They were not scientific. The lockdowns did not work. They didn't prevent transmission. The masks did not work. They didn't prevent transmission. The vaccines didn't work. They didn't prevent transmission. Caused a lot of harm to people, society, almost every single industry. Really, they've destroyed the economies of most countries, including this one. Anyway, I digress.
And now they've just pulled out of AstraZeneca.
Yeah, AstraZeneca's just been pulled. I think if things continue as they are, it won't be long before other things will be pulled. Because now they're saying, oh, well, there were 80 people who died from blood clot. But we knew that. We knew that in 2021. So it's ridiculous that they're pretending they didn't know. Anyway, so the point is that the World Health Organization are voting on two things. One of them is the so-called pandemic treaty, and one of them is the international health regulations. Now, the international health regulations, the nation states, as far as I understand it, don't have any say over at all. So that's just going to be pushed through because we already have something called the international health regulations, but they're updating them. And what they're putting in the updates are pretty shocking. One of the main points is, I think it's in the IHRs, that they effectively they keep changing things, but they want to do away with national sovereignty. So this time, when there's another pandemic being called, which certain important voices are already talking about, this time they want it to be legally enforceable by the WHO. So even if we manage to get someone in our government saying we're not going to do it, they want to force nations to do it, which basically means the end of nation-state democracy and the beginning of a one-world government. So that's one of the main things.
You might call it a new world tyranny.
Yeah. And then there's other things in the pandemic treaty. The pandemic treaty, supposedly we have more of a say over, but of course, I don't even think MPs are getting a vote in Parliament. It's not being talked about on the media. So it's really, there's so many things going on, but this is right now should be as big as leaving the EU was. There should be discussions all over the media, but nothing, just crickets. And so there's going to be a massive convoy from all people from all over Europe. I even saw a guy from Florida is going to join. So there's going to be people all over the world descending onto Geneva just in time for the end of the vote. And it's Dan Aston Gregory from here, if anyone knows him. He's kind of leading the charge from here. And the point is basically to declare our independence from the WHO and to say, we don't stand under this. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous, really, because they're breaking their own rules. They should have to wait 4 months between amending things and then having a vote, but they're just still trying to push it through. So anyway, this is the people declaring our independence from this global tyranny. And so we're going to be talking about that on the EP launch as well.
Give me liberty or give me death. Right. Well, thank you very much. People can find out more at defiancerecordings.com.
Yeah, that's right.
Beautiful.
T-shirts are available.
Thanks for watching. Please give us a like, a share, a subscribe, hit the notification button if you would like to help. We've got a Patreon we're setting up and a Subscribe Star. So please head on over there and pledge us some support if you want to keep this journalism going. We've got a professional studio here and we could do with your support to keep these great conversations coming.
So if you can, please support UNN. Please back us. It really, really is greatly appreciated.
I watch UNN because I like to know what's going on and the truth. I don't watch BBC because I don't like the lies.
I watch UNN because I'm interested in the news. I'm a keen Brexiteer. I don't like the vaccine. I hate vaccine passports. And I watch UNN because it's brought to me, and it's brought to all of us, by people who bloody care about what's going on.
You're right there, I'm Steve Laws. I cover illegal immigration way before the media did, and UNN was the only media outlet to give me a voice. They was the only media outlet to share my videos early on, and without them I couldn't have got the message any further than I did. So support real news, support UNN.
I watch UNN for pure unbiased news and information.
It means family, it means inclusion.